Welcome back, everybody, to the back nine holes of round one of the 2021 Down East Players Cup, presented by Eastern Disc Golf and Disc Box. I'm Brian Earhart, joined here by, again, a legend in the disc sports world. I am honored to be commentating with Elaine King today. Elaine, it's been a blast watching you on screen today.
And it's been a blast commentating with you. Is that a word? Commentating.
It is.
Commenting. Anyhow, we are at Meadowbrook Park. It is a great battle. Myself, Whitney Graham, Deann Carey, Holly Finley, and we're going into hole number 10, 628 feet. And there you can see the leaderboard. We've got Natalie Ryan also neck and neck with myself. Emily Garner is up there too. And it's a pretty good day. We've had a little bit of rain in the front nine. Hole number 10, we start out in a little bit of a cove. There's some random trees here. It's really hard to get a line right to the basket, but the landing zone is a little bit farther behind us, and it's just a long way with a low ceiling, so getting a 3 is pretty hard. Most women will be looking to take a 4 on hole 10.
Yeah, super duper low ceiling here, and Whitney is opting for the backhand, trying to get a little turn. Almost got the full turn she was looking for, but still popped up to a decent spot.
If you can get in front of that line of trees, that's the minimum you're looking for, and then as much distance as your throw can manage. Deann was a little bit to the left there, and I think she might have popped through the trees.
And there you go.
And I actually slipped on the tee, which I almost never do, but it was kind of sandy at the front, and I could feel myself turning. Meanwhile, Holly gets the gap between the trees, and it goes a long way up there. She will be thrilled with that shot.
Yeah, that's got to feel good to finally hit the line that you're aiming. You know, you could tell she's frustrated, so that's good to get one all the way down there. And you're going to have some work.
Yeah, it's pretty much an extra stroke when you do something like that, but I got my second shot where my first shot should have landed, so we'll just take it from there. Deann hung on a little bit too long, but she's probably far enough the field that she can get up and down from there. I am not, so I'm just trying to hit the gap and get a little bit of distance.
And a nice and simple shot out to the field. You have a long throw-in look if you'd like.
Yeah, if I want to throw in a 50-footer, that would be the time to do it. So Whitney, her second shot, a little bit turned over, but a stable disc, and it actually flares out nicely, giving her a similarly long look at a birdie.
Yeah, I think I was the camera angle deceived me. I thought you were way farther away from the basket. It looks, like you said, to be about 50 feet.
And Deann was pretty lucky to find the gap between those two trees. She was attempting to go to the right, but she's out there in the field again looking at the basket. So finally we get to Holly's first shot, and so she's in pretty good position there, but it's hard to get amongst the trees, and that's what ends up. You end up hyzering it, but she is now maybe 20 feet from the basket. She's got a long throw.
And the long bid.
Yeah, it didn't even hit the basket, so I threw it up in the air, and it came down. Now, Whitney was staring down the basket. That was a much better bid, just a bit short. Deann, the birdie attempt. And you can see her like shaking her hand afterwards. Not easy. And as we mentioned earlier on in the broadcast, Deann has injured her thumb, and so it's all taped up. And Holly was looking at a birdie there and just wasn't able to convert. Meanwhile, I pop it in for bogey, and the rest of the women are looking at a par.
And a little bag tap in there for Deann. Yeah, hole number 10, only 528 feet, but the technicality makes it so that you have to really throw 2 good shots to get up and down for the birdie.
Well, also 2 shots that are low with power.
Yeah, exactly. And a simple par there for Holly. We are going to move on to hole number 11.
Hole number 11 is 573 feet. There's a goodly amount of fairway, but you don't want to get too far to the left because there's an OB line. And to the right, you have those spindly trees. That rough over on the left side is very viney. Then the fairway turns. You go down this alley, and then we've got the wall that you must get over.
Very unique element of course design, but I really like it. It forces you to really control the speed of the disc on that shot going in there.
And a really nice shot from Whitney. She gets it well down the fairway. And Holly just zings it.
Another fantastic drive, but is she too pinched?
There's one tree that's kind of in her way. So I kind of held on to that a little bit. So I'm going to have that group of trees to contend with.
It's also a little inside, but again, more stable disc from Deann.
And we'll have to see where that lands. I can't see where the flags are. So meanwhile, I've been decided, should I go sidearm, backhand, and I've decided I can probably get a little more distance backhand. But I hit those low-lying branches, which completely redirected my disc into the viney morass. We'll see more of that later. Whitney, meanwhile, a little bit tight on her hyzer shot, but not too bad a position. So Deann was safe. And again, she gets it just around the corner, or maybe she got a little caught up, it looks like.
Yeah, it was a little bit too tight, it looked like, to even try to get into the mouth and fight against that wall, but she might have an opportunity to take that 4, but...
And Holly had the one tree to contend with that did not enable her to get the angle on the shot. Now here, I considered going backwards because it was just so nasty going forwards, but I couldn't even go backwards.
Yeah, wow, look at this.
You know I'm desperate when you see me do something like that.
And we'll see how far up you got, and you still have some vines and some cabbage to deal with. Look at the camera zooming out just to show you where she's at.
Oh, finally, some sunlight. That, don't go there, folks. That was not a good place. Deann ended up in a fine spot and puts it right up by the basket. Whitney, same story.
Just sneaks over the wall.
I honestly thought I was going to hit the wall, but thankfully it was just an inch high enough. You can see there, I damaged my finger on a thorn. It poked into me. I was bleeding. Feeling very sorry for myself at that point. And Holly for her par.
Wow, what
Big
a
putt.
putt.
Big,
And that's
big
got to
putt.
feel good. She's missed a couple. Let's go for that Ace Run Pro run back. Great camera angle. And yeah, her style of putt allows her to just still attack these uphill distance putts with so much pace. That's got to feel good.
And Holly's all smiles after that big putt going in. Okay, and I get that hole over with. Whew, let's get out of there.
And Deann, pretty simple par.
And the same thing for Whitney, who's slightly closer. Just a drop in.
And now Whitney has a 2-stroke lead on the card. She is starting to pull away with some really solid golf.
It's been very impressive, and especially her backhand, which I hadn't seen a lot from her. Hole 12, oh goodness. There's this narrow winding fairway, and there's OB on the left, OB on the right, and you have to get to a certain distance to even continue. So then we just keep going down the fairway, down the fairway, down the fairway, and we're going to make a big right turn here as we get past this guardian tree. Lots of skinny trees to the right. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be the left. You want to be in the middle. This is a hole that's super long, 868 feet, and just all kinds of danger.
Holly going high, and this is in play. She's on the playing surface.
Whitney with a backhand. She turns it over, and it's a stable disc. She's saying, sit down, sit down, sit down, because the out of bounds is there, but
And she's in a great position.
she is. That's perfect. You want to be on the left side if you can. Deann just lets loose with a understable disc. Gets a great shot out.
3 solid drives so far. Let's see if you can keep the pace.
I've got my Turner disc, and it just comes out of my hand. I don't think I was holding it tightly enough, and I'm going to have to go to the drop zone.
All right, Holly's second. She's speeding up the disc a little bit, gets a little flare forward.
And that's a good position to be above that clump of trees on your second shot. So it is a fairly generous drop zone, so I'm really only a stroke behind at this point.
Another just smooth backhand from Whitney, and she puts it right in the middle. She's feeling good right now. She can go sidearm on the second if she'd like, or the third.
Deann got a big shot out there, and she follows it up with another big shot. And it flares out into exactly the spot that you want to be looking down that alleyway. Holly, her highs are flipped discs. I've watched this disc all year.
That almost slid sideways, but caught, some sort of stump. What a shot.
So I'm just trying to put my disc around the corner, and as I've been doing a few times today, just hung on to it a little bit too long, and unfortunately it bounced the wrong way. Whitney a little bit tight on that angle. She needed to push it out more to the left, so she'll have to deal with those skinny trees. Meanwhile, Deann is just right lined up, but I think she was starting to get a little bit nervous, so she grounded it out a bit, but she is in the middle of the fairway. She's playing this hole really well.
Uh-oh. Tight window.
I got frustrated. I could have just pitched it out 50 feet, and I thought stupid hole.
I have been there, and I'm sure all the viewers at home have definitely been there.
So Whitney does have a window there, so you can see she's going sidearm, throw it nice and flat through that window. Beautifully done, but hits a late tree and knocks her down short of where she wanted to be. So I'm finding myself in a kind of a similar position, having to get through that skinny tree forest. pull out my trusty sidearm. You won't see me throw a lot of them, but I'm trying to integrate more sidearms into my game. And if I'd just thrown that nose up, it might have actually gotten there. But I was pretty happy to hit where I was aiming.
And Holly has a long look. And she's right under the basket. That's really well played hole.
Absolutely. She managed this hole very well, especially that third shot that turned around the corner a little bit.
Yeah, she's a huge fan, I believe, of the Roadrunner. That's one of her favorite flip-up discs. And yeah, she throws them incredible. Nothing aggressive from Deann. Just looking to get off the hole.
Get her par. And so Whitney, I think she's got a clear look at the basket, although that tree might be in her way just a tiny bit.
No way! Beautiful putt.
That was a fantastic putt.
And look at this. This is a really solid circle too. Look, continuation of the weight, perfect step putt, good balance. She loves it.
That was really textbook for him. She was super excited to make her par. I think she had given up. And I have a tree to work around. And don't quite make it, so I'm going to take a big number there. Meanwhile, Deann with her par, she just made it look pretty easy. Again, Holly with a par.
And that is a fantastic way of playing the hole. Such a challenging par 5. And unfortunately, you're going to take a decently big number on this one.
Yeah, I think that's a triple bogey, so I'm just too...
If I need to get up and down in a pressure situation, I'm grabbing the AVR X3 every time. When you can connect the visualization of the shot that you're trying to throw with the feel of the disc in your hand, that's really when magic happens. I can trust throwing the disc as hard as I want or as soft as I want to do exactly what it's supposed to do. Like the AVR is the best putter of all time, the AVR X3 just might be the best approach disc of all time.
Hole 13 has dual fairways. Most of the players take this left fairway. It is a skinny fairway, as you can see. A lot of pine straw. And the women are going to be landing somewhere in this fairway. It's just too long to get all the way out. Then your second shot, you want to take it out through the field and land near the basket. Warning, there is going to be some wind once you get out to the field.
Oh, and Holly has put a decent move on this and just gets a bad roll bounce off the right side.
And Whitney goes to the right. She prefers that right alley. She caught a little bit of a branch high up there, but it's probably on the fairway, it looks like.
Oh, and just leaks a little bit left. I find it very satisfying when a double fairway hole actually has both sides utilized by the players. Occasionally there's a gap that's just simply too small. But this hole looks very fair, and you threw a great shot, and there's just that one tree that you clipped.
If you can get by the short tee, you're doing well. So Whitney right on the fairway, but that's too extreme an angle, and so that makes her roll into something that looks fairly nasty over there. And speaking of nasty, Holly's found herself in a kind of a viney predicament, but she's got a clear sidearm.
And that's going to leave her with a stretch out backhand from there. She's pinched off on the right side, and let's see where yours is. just short of that tree.
Yeah, that's a little bit low. It's hard to get the 3 on this hole. Even though it's 513 feet, it's a little bit uphill to begin with. And then you've got that low ceiling as you exit the forest. And I think Holly's shot would have carried farther, but it got slowed down by a branch. And meanwhile, Deann finds herself in a pretty decent spot.
And again, it's just so unsatisfying to not get to watch your disc fly, hitting that last tree in the gap.
So Whitney wasn't too bad in terms of being deep in the stuff, but it's kind of an awkward angle she had to try and get out.
Oh, and you see the wind just slam that down, just like you said. But she put herself to a decent position, 15 feet short.
And that was a little bit shorter than she would have liked. Looks like she took some spin off of that, maybe just trying for accuracy. And look at Holly putting from this huge distance. But that's a beautiful layup. So I'm trying to give it sort of a soft go there, and you can see the wind just picked my
Yikes.
disc up. It's like I don't even know where that wind came from. Couldn't feel it. So that will leave me with about a 30-footer.
Oh, and Whitney looking for another step putt, just short.
I don't think she had quite the extension that we saw on the previous hole.
Oh, and that's a nice little comebacker after the wind pulls your approach away. And I'm trying to look around to even see where the wind is. I'm looking at branches, leaves. I'm not seeing much of anything.
Yeah, it's a funny area because it's sheltered on a number of different directions, but there is the baseball field that is to the right as we're looking at the basket that you can just get a little funnel of wind come up. And
The same lift that got yours, got Deann's putt as well. Wow. So it seems so subtle, but the lift is so steep. And the first blemish in a while for Whitney. She moves up to 6 over after that double.
yeah, and I was the only one that hole who managed to walk away with a par, so it was fairly punishing for the group. Well, let's move on to hole 14. You've got a very straight fairway that goes 413 feet to the basket, so it's a pretty straightforward hole. Bit of a low ceiling. And my disc got pushed a little bit right, but it snuck through the first bushes, and I'm sitting in the open there, so I was pretty happy when I find that out. Now, a strategy is to go off to the left, so you can see Holly skipping off to the left. It's pretty open over there, so many of the women like to employ that tactic. Deann also looking to get the flare, but a little bit too straight.
Oh, Whitney getting a little bit more turn on that. And she's also going to skip right out to the left side.
Yeah, that's a nice place to land. So I have to say, for the women, it's not that exciting a hole. 413 feet is not really possible to get a 2 on, and this hole doesn't have much in the way of features right at the end of at the hole towards the basket. So what we're going to see is just a bunch of pretty routine 100-foot shots.
And a clean hyzer release, and that is right next to the basket. You had a little bit more than 100 feet to go. That was a nice shot up there.
Yeah, so there's 3 discs close to the basket at this point, and Deann had hers fade off a little bit to the left, so she'll have circle's edge putt. And bangs it in there. Nice job. At this point, we're sheltered from the wind here. We'll be feeling a few gusts of wind on the next couple of holes, but just sort of intermittently as we go into an area where there's a lot of shelter. As Holly finishes up with her par.
And yeah, like you said, they call this a par 3. It's just outside of the reach, so it kind of turns into a tweener hole, like a 3.5 par, 4 pars, and we're going to move on to hole number 15.
Hole 15 is a beast, 551 feet. You can throw your disc like the drone flies, or you can go around to the right. Then the fairway takes a dog leg uphill, and the basket finally is elevated.
Yeah, low ceiling off the bat.
Yeah, so you'll see I will choose to go around to the right, where there's a little bit more room to work with, and I get actually a nice push from the wind, helping my disc skip up there in front of all those first bunches of trees. Holly following, but just a little bit too straight, and she gets knocked down.
Looks like Deann's going straight on this one.
Yeah, she likes the straight route, but just nicked the inside of a tree. She's short of that Mando tree that you can see with the arrow, so she'll be able to get around that nicely. And Whitney going around to the right, and very nicely controlled, and she'll have a good look at that top tier. We have to go then over that tier. So Holly's a fair bit back. And a nicely shaped hyzer shot going around, and it is a par 4. It's just really super hard to get there in 2 shots. Deann passing the mandatory to the correct side, and she's up on the top plateau. That's a good skip out of the stuff. That had a little bit too much hyzer on it, but pops out to the fairway. And I'm hoping to see if I can get up and around, because this is the farthest I think I've ever driven on this hole, but it's such a low ceiling.
And just clips that outside branch on the pine tree.
Yeah, I would have been interested to see if I could have reached hole length, but that did not happen this time through. So we're all looking in pretty good position to get our 4. And you can see it's very sandy by the basket, so you don't need to be afraid of your disc skipping too much. And in fact, you want your disc to land right close to the basket, because it will stick in the sand. It'll just slow all the momentum off the disc, make it sit down nicely. Good upshot from Holly. And Whitney meant to hyzer hers in. It goes a little bit too straight, so that will be a bit of a challenge. It looks like it's at about the 35-foot length, and it is an elevated basket, which makes it a little scarier. And of course, we have a little bit of wind on this top plateau coming as Whitney is putting from left to right.
After a couple of solid shots, her approach does put her to a tester distance, and she did miss. Looking back at a bogey there, Holly is going to cash in the par. And Whitney has a similar distance, and like you said, now the wind is going to change.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate when you don't hit any part of an elevated basket, because you have the same sort of challenge, and she wasn't feeling confident in that. Now, I actually like putting uphill, so I kind of like it when there's elevated baskets.
Is there something physically you do differently in these types of putts?
To me, it feels easier to keep on line when your arm goes up versus when your arm goes straight. I don't know why. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but I think maybe because it's a different motion than the usual putting motion too, it's just doesn't stress those same muscles in the same way.
And as our card moves on to the next hole, we have 3 remaining in round number 1. And we move on to hole number 16, 288. Uphill, back downhill, down to the left. What do you think about this hole?
Oh, it's a frustrating hole for me because the length would indicate I should be able to get it, but that initial uphill, you can see how far uphill it is. And I get my shut off and I knew that it wasn't high enough. Although you don't want to throw super high over a hill, that was a little bit too low, and so I landed short, and that's what I tend to do on that hole. You can hear the air traffic coming in. Meanwhile, Holly gets plenty of height, asking for an ace. Of course, it's blind, so we can't really see what happens, but she's well within the circle. Deann also gets some really nice height on her shot.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Not bad at all. I don't know if there was a sawmill going behind us, but there's this incessant buzzing. And Whitney gets a great shot and skips up there to about 30 to 40 feet. Much as I would love to run the deuce, discretion was the better part of valor there. That was a good attempt. Miss high. You want to miss high if you're going to miss. Two for Holly.
And she's definitely starting to throw the disc a lot more competently when we moved into this back 9.
Yeah, Holly had a very slow start, very uncharacteristic, but she seems to be getting into her rhythm much better on this back 9. And a 2 from Deann. This is such a long course, and I mean to say 2 on the score is something we've not said to this point in the round.
And we have 2 holes remaining. Whitney taps out her par. And you as well.
On to hole 17. Hole 17 is a fun one.
Welcome to the shop.
as I was saying, hole 17, it's a little bit uphill, and then it goes a little bit downhill. And you can go around to the left like the drone did, or the round to the right, but there is a creek about 20 feet past the basket, which is out of bounds. So for your drive, you're trying to get it up around that guardian tree and just have it float downhill as far as you can manage.
Ooh, and Holly looking for maybe a little bit more flip, but puts herself with an open look to the basket.
Yeah, that was a little bit farther to the left than she might have liked, but she's not in trouble. Deann gets off a great shot here at Anheuser's and just has a little bit of hyzer, and it got tons of hyzer action that we couldn't see and skipped way on down there.
Yeah, those hard pack greens covered in pine straw definitely makes the skip a little bit more aggressive, so to speak. And you unfortunately did not land on the pine straw.
No, I landed on the sand and it came to an abrupt halt.
And going left side, Whitney goes with another just clean flex sidearm. She is going to contend with this middle section of trees. She has to pick a side.
Well, all of us have to deal with that middle section of trees, so you go one way or you go the other way. So I've got my putter here. I just want to do a little bit of a turnover. So that's coming in nicely.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a tad short, but yeah, right there near the basket. And that was just a misfire from Whitney. Grip lock, she said. I think she turned her wrist is what happened. So Holly's a little bit uncomfortable there, but she does have a line at it. And unfortunately, she missed her line. And at this point, it's just very dangerous to try to run the basket because the creek is just 20 feet behind.
Long birdie look.
That was very ill-advised. I don't know what got into her. Obviously, she just suddenly felt good about the putt and felt like putting another birdie in, and bang, she did it.
Wow. Complete death putt.
Absolutely. But yeah, we were surprised she went for it, and what a beautiful birdie. And Whitney looking at a bogey. So I have a slightly awkward stance from these trees, but not too bad. But I didn't put it nose up enough. I just threw it flat. I had no nose up. I was thinking about my feet and not thinking about my release.
And Whitney takes a bogey with one hole remaining.
And Holly for her bogey putt, and then me for my bogey putt. So we're going to have Deann with a 2, and the rest of us just couldn't keep up at all, taking 4s.
Yeah, great back-to-back birdies for Deann. We move into number 18, last hole of the round.
354 feet. It's a very, very straight look, but it's uphill, so it plays a little bit longer than the distance would suggest. The basket just around the corner from a bunch of trees, so you want to keep to the right.
I'm playing with you. It was great, you guys. Really
Thanks,
enjoyed
everybody.
it.
The COVID foot tap.
Oh, and she's ripped this and just clips the last bush on the right side.
She was going for birdie number 3, let me tell you. But the foliage got in her way. Holly actually had a fair amount of left turn and skip, and so now she's going to have to look through the trees and get her disc through there. So I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty straight. I know I can't make that distance.
And this lines up just perfectly for Whitney's sidearm. Oh, yeah.
That was a beautiful sidearm. Nice anhyzer with a stable disc. She loves to sidearm the stable discs.
Final approach of the day.
A little bit of a roll, but it comes back a bit, so not too bad.
Little throw-in attempt from Deann.
She wants that third birdie in a row. I think we're seeing Whitney's father in the background there, and her brother caddies for her. So her family out there supporting Whitney all day. So Holly's got to kind of sneak around the trees. She's got a good sidearm gap. Ooh, that was kind of turned over, but it got through. So, whew.
Yeah, she's safe. She has 15-footer, finish her round. Oh, yeah.
And boom.
She definitely held strong on that back nine.
Yeah, just such a slow start, and that'll put her at a +8 for the event. Deann looking to can her par putt. And a little bit high, but good enough to get that in, and she remains at +5 for the round.
Yeah, great finish.
And I remain at +10. Few stumbles, double digits. I'll look to clean that up in the third round if I can. And Whitney, her camera debut here on Gatekeeper, and she put in a really solid round, just a few little errors right at the end of the round.
Yeah, she definitely showcased her skill set in its entirety. A lot of huge backhand sidearms, beautiful putts. Always nice to see the local talent out here. Look at what we have, folks. Deann Carey with a fantastic finish, +5, winning the card. Holly, then Whitney, then Elaine.
And you can see in the leaderboard, Natalie Ryan is a co-leader with Deann Carey, and Holly and Jay McGuire to round out the top 4 for tomorrow.
And there you have it, folks. Thank you again. We will have more disc golf coverage coming at you soon with round 2. Again, make sure to subscribe to Gatekeeper Media on YouTube, and we will see you next time.